What's really going on, everyone? Back again with another episode. This time there's no guest, but I will preview. Our biggest guest is on the way. I just had to
I
let that
feel
be
like
known
you say that every time we get a big guest.
because maybe we keep raising the stakes. But I will digress. We keep leveling up. This is the What's Really Going On podcast. Before we get into all of the latest news and notes, be sure to follow us on all of our platforms. That is at WRGO Pod on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Be sure to like us and subscribe on Substack. We're now on there too. And be sure to like, listen, and subscribe on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Mackenzie, how are you? Because Henry is laughing at my intro.
I'm good. I'm good. What is today?
It's Tuesday that still somehow
I
feels
was
like a
gonna say the
Monday.
week beating you up like that.
Tuesday. No, honestly, yeah, it is. That's what type of day I'm having. So,
Oh well, I'm gonna send you prayers and good energy. I mean, I'm blessed in the essence of life, man, for real. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't want to be. Yeah, it's just I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
All right. Deacon Henry has entered the chat. So once again, this has, to Mackenzie's point, this has been a Tuesday that has felt like a Monday because this is a long ass week. But you know who it's even a longer week for? Congress. So if you did not know, on October 1st, the federal government shut down as Congress failed to pass a funding bill to extend their services through funding. All non-essential services have been suspended, and several 100,000 federal employees and active duty service members will work without pay. This will likely most impact airlines and air traffic controllers, which was a problem earlier in the year, especially at high traffic areas, largely where we live, New York, DC, Atlanta in particular. The debate about the shutdown hinges upon a healthcare debate. Democrats are withholding their vote in an effort to extend subsidies that are related to the Affordable Care Act, which are set to expire at the end of the year. Democrats are refusing to vote for a short term funding bill that does not include an extension of the tax credits, along with repeals to cuts from healthcare programs that they put in place as a part of the One Big Beautiful Bill. In August, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities projected that the One Big Beautiful Bill will cause roughly 15 million people to lose their health insurance by the year 2034. And the Kaiser Family Foundation found that if ACA tax credits were not extended, that the average premium for those folks would nearly double. Now, that all goes to say the $1 million question: does any of this even matter in the grand scheme of things? Do you think that this is something that people will actually lock in on? Because I have my doubts. But Henry, let's start with you since you seem puzzled.
Like the will it matter? That's like like the last time Trump shut the government down cost the American people $11 million. So that's real time if effect. And then I seen he's hasn't agreed to back pay the essential or government workers that are still working. So now you're playing with people's livelihood in real time. So those people definitely will feel it, and I hope they will remember it. And then I seen Newsom speak about how there's a lot of delayed flights in California because
Mm-hmm.
of like the lack of, you know, personnel.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I definitely think people are gonna feel it. I do think we're like the media and social media and how you're receiving this information in the real time effects. I think that's what's being like propagated in a way to where the normal person who isn't as informed or tapped in or maybe knows someone that's directly affected, then they maybe brush it off because unfortunately that's how we like remember things, is how did this thing or incident affect me.
McKinley, any thoughts?
yeah, no, like I definitely agree with Henry because I just feel like my question is I'm not sure how long he will let this last. Like, I don't feel like he even respects the government enough to even try to make sure that they even get back to some type of resolution to get these people employed, especially if he already said that he's not going to do back pay. So I just feel so terrible for people who are really just caught up in this because just like federal jobs used to be something that like was so dependable, and this is really changing the trajectory of like that entire thought process of like even getting a federal job, do the right thing, do your job, go to work after 5 years. Like it's a great
Mhm.
track for a lot of people to get from point A to point B. So I just like feel like what is that going to look like in the next 3 years for this man in office? Like this is crazy. And how long is this going to last? Because I really do feel I worry that this is going to go longer than at least the last time. And the last time was what, like 30 days or 30 something days?
Yeah, the longest shutdown we had, I think, was in 2018. That was 35 days. So
Yeah.
essentially, that would be federal government workers missing a month's pay,
hmm
which
While your boss is telling you, I also am not gonna give you back pay either. Like that's also
Imagine missing a month's pay.
hmm
Let's just start there.
I
Talk
hmm
mean,
about will it matter or does it matter?
and I think that, and I think that, and I think the interesting thing is that I think if you I think you both, I think, have done a better job in terms of explaining the why this matters. And I think that always gets back to what we always talk about in terms of like how people are actively talking about this. I think people are naturally like focusing on healthcare, which I do think is like a very important thing because if the government just continues on, like healthcare will be more expensive and that will cause like a lot of destruction. I'd like to think that to your all's point, like, hey, you all are just messing with people's bread. And even if you're not actually seeing how these people are impacting you, you're still impacting people's dollars. But do you think that's an effective message? I don't know. I really don't.
To Mackenzie's point, they don't care. Trump administration doesn't care. Like the Republicans really don't care. They voted 5 times. They could have to avoid keeping the government or getting the government back up. So I like the first day the government shutdown happened. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's time to get rid of the Democrats. We're putting Project 2025 full stop." Now he's talking about like 9/11 and stuff. So like it's very this it's not confusing at all. It's frustrating more than anything because you
What
do
makes it frustrating?
well, yeah, like you do see Trump appointed judges trying to push back. We seen like today the Chicago mayor or
Mhm.
governor, it was one of them. They signed,
Both.
it was both.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know they're suing him for trying to
Mhm.
deploy ICE, and then they basically put out I don't know the proper term, but some type of a legislative statement that said, "Hey, if you cannot be in proper Chicago City." So, like for me, and then you have Newsom, and then Jasmine Crockett, and you have so many other people and judges, or like Lisa Cook, the lady he tried to
Mhm.
fire. Like it's so many different intricacies that are pushing back. But again, I think the one media is showing it in two extreme different ways. Like, and that's what's frustrating. And then also it's frustrating
Wait,
that
what are the two different ways?
like Trump this extremist and this is probably because I my algorithm because of the things I like and interact with, I see this stuff, right? So that could be a very big, not even could, that's likely a big part of it. But then also when you do see like certain media outlets or like right now they're running certain commercials in Georgia that are kind of message like he's this golden child that's saving everything and he's helping everybody. And it's like, I don't get it because we all are in every single way. That's why I don't understand the Republican Party at large. They're being affected inadvertently. Their constituents are definitely directly being affected. And to Kamala's point, where we'll get to this later, like these big corporations that are just folding, like I don't get that either. And that's what I was about to say. Democrats at large and corporations, whoever their backers or whatever, I feel like it should have just been a better plan in place if we ever were to, you know what I'm saying? We dealt with Trump already. We should have known within the first 30 days he got to get up out of there. So we should have had things in place. And that where Crockett said a couple weeks ago, my biggest problem with the Biden administration is not locking him up. That man, the attorney general, that what's his name, Noah?
Who, Biden?
No, what was it?
You
I
talking about
can't
Merrick
think.
Garland?
No, maybe that's his name. But basically, he didn't certify their findings. He didn't.
No, no, joke. Yeah, that was
You
Merrick
know what I'm
Garland.
talking about?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I do.
So it's stuff like that to where direct people was just like whatever. Trump ain't gonna do. You know what I'm saying? That's what's frustrating.
And Mackenzie, one thing I want to ask you. One, I think just I'll ask you a two-part question from like a media standpoint. I think it's been interesting to see how they've been covering this because I think Republicans have like kind of said the lie of like, oh, they're fighting to like make sure that undocumented people have healthcare, which they don't. But the media only has so much time to like kind of tell them that they're lying. And it seems as if that's like an uncomfortable thing for media to do, to just be like, that's just actually not like you're lying to my face and you know you are, and you know you are. But also, can you give me your thoughts on that? But also, do you think that from like a media narrative, like is healthcare the reason to shut the government down as opposed to what Henry was saying in terms of like ICE and federal troops are just going anywhere. Like to me, that seems to be like a more like easy thing for people to understand. But I don't know, like, is this the issue to basically be like, this is what we're gonna plant the flag on?
I get what you mean. Okay, so I understand why what you mean if like why if this is gonna matter. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to your point, I do think the other option with ICE being deployed and stuff is obviously I feel like just more so eye-catching because like all you think
Mm-hmm.
about is somebody being kidnapped and taken off the streets and literally never seen again.
By masked men.
Yeah, like by men just on foot, and it's like very scary. Um, Healthcare is different, but it's like it's one of those things that it's like it's not going to impact you until it impacts you. And the thing
Mm-hmm.
that my issue is with it when it comes to the media, I feel like they just just headlines and stuff. And I feel like I always critique it on Instagram because things read in a way and read in a way as if you're not calling out the actual problem. Like the actual problem isn't just the government shutdown, it's this person in power also not prioritizing healthcare and also doesn't care about the well-being of a certain demographic. But then we're just going to say, well, it's because the Democrats and Republicans can't get along. But it's just
Yeah,
so
like
much
two sides
deeper than
disagree. Yeah, it's like it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
that.
and
Yeah,
it's positioned in a way of like playing devil's advocate instead of like calling things out. Like another thing, especially when it comes to healthcare and money, there was a story from the New York Times actually, and it was like saying that people were living in poverty in New York City because of the lack of financial or not financial, a COVID aid. And I'm like, how is it COVID had happened at this point almost 5 years ago? There's no way that that check even matters anymore. Now it's about inflation, it's about politics, it's about so many other things, but we don't want to call it that. We want to call it something else. And we're just trying to redirect the conversation to be mad at something else. Because, like, the government shutdown, 30 days is a long time. But that's why I'm like, if you think about it the way that they position it, they'll position it like, oh, 30 days. Yes, this is a big deal. But 30 days is a month. But that is a long time. Because 40 days, 50 days, 60 days, this could go to 3 months, 6 months, and then also people don't have jobs. So, yeah, I know I started rambling, but I feel
yeah.
like
No, I just think it's interesting to your point. We can move on, but I think it's always like I think we have noticed that more, and we've talked about I think the media's role, and I think just being neutral just for neutral sake of like, oh, this is a disagreement, even though one side is not telling the truth. Like this is a disagreement because there's a lie involved, and I
Mhm.
think there's a difference between, to your point, like Democrats and Republicans disagree, and but it's like yes, that is correct. They are disagreeing because someone is saying something that is just not true. It's like you kind of have to include
But
that.
to that point of people saying stuff that's just not true, I think that's what's also frustrating about the White House and their like who holds them accountable when Councilwoman Felicia Rashad said who I said Felicia Rashad, Lord. Felicia Porter, I'm tripping. Like it just wrote off the tongue. Excuse me, no disrespect to her. But when she said like where's HR, we're still like who is like how is the White House just able to sit, one, they're blaming it on Democrats. They blatantly push out lies from the official accounts. It's really ridiculous. And he knows that his base isn't gonna look past what he says. So that's the real frustrating part.
Do
And
y'all think that there's gonna be a change in tide in his base though? Like eventually, because it's just like financially his community can't with tariffs, even outside of this conversation, like it's gonna hit people hard. There aren't any jobs. You can't buy a house.
I think
Taxes
I
are like I don't see many pros in this. Like you are kind of like in their mind, I mean, I feel like to that conversation with Ezra Klein and Ta-Nehisi Coates, like
yeah.
this is what it feels like being black in America. So it's kind of like, of course we didn't get what we wanted, sure, but you're white and you didn't get what you wanted, and you're
what
still okay with
you
this?
just said it though. You just said it as to why I think the base wouldn't change because the root of it is just blatant racism.
I
Like
think it's a
we,
But they're
combination.
not winning in the racism. Like they're,
it was were they winning during the civil? I'm gonna keep
I mean,
going back
not
to
winning,
it
but like
because
nobody
it
can get
teaches me
jobs. You can't buy a
that.
house. It's just like you.
I think it's a combination of both. Racism is clearly at play, and it will move on. And I also think I think we're underestimating, and I think like everyone else in the media does this too. But like, I think we like really don't have a good enough sense of like how if you are kind of in that Republican media ecosystem, you are only being fed like one stream of information, and nothing is like getting you to see another side of it. All the podcasts you listen to are just affirming, oh, we need ICE, we need this. All the political media that you listen to, Fox News, all these other things. Nothing is like breaking your void to where if you do encounter anything else that breaks that, your initial reaction is, well, that's not matching anything else that I'm consuming, so that has to be crazy, without actually taking into account of like, no, let me just actually like live my life and feel what I feel outside of like, I think it's like just how media has this kind of like really like and TikTok and stuff like that has really kind of messed us up. I actually think Mackenzie, we're going to jump around in our doc, but I actually think that is a perfect pivot to the conversation about Ezra Klein. So for those who don't know, Ezra Klein is a opinion writer at the New York Times. If you're asking us why we're about to talk about this, a little bit inside, Ezra Klein is not like matching Charlie Kirk in terms of his kind of overall influence because that's just not possible. But he is probably one of the top three people in Democratic circles who is probably influencing the policymakers or who is influencing discussions within Democratic politics that we talk about frequently on this podcast. So following Kirk's death, Ezra Klein, in an opinion article, he wrote a opinion piece that was titled "Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way." In the piece, Klein discussed how Kirk engaged in politics through discussion with people, though they thought differently than he did. He goes into kind of a, we'll talk about kind of the line of thought between him and Ta-Nehisi Coates, but in response, Coates wrote a really good piece that we'll link in the show notes that was in Variety Fair. It criticized Klein's piece, offering a different account of Kirk's legacy, but also how Ezra Klein, in writing about Charlie Kirk, did not include any of the actual words that he said. They recently sat down on Ezra Klein's show on a podcast. I watched, Mackenzie, I know you watched. I think it was maybe the most fascinating and infuriating thing I have ever watched in my life. Um, can you at least just kind of share your thoughts on the overall conversation, but also like what it kind of means? Because I have thoughts about like how that conversation I think is actually like indicative of like a larger problem that I don't think we talk about.
Well, honestly, I didn't connect it until just now when we were talking about my point before, but it was just watching an hour worth of someone be on purpose so neutral to a situation that is so obviously wrong. You know what I mean? Like this man spewed hate. Why are we even going back and forth about this? It was just that. And then the most irritating thing about it is like we have to like hold space, or we're told that we have to hold space for like ignorance. And it's like he did it in a way of like, I'm curious, and just in that, I don't even know what they do, these passive aggressive liberals. I mean, like it just be like, well, because his question was like, what if people just don't think about it like that? Or like he just did it, and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
it's like we can't do that. Like we can't. Yeah,
how
yeah.
don't I not think about it like that?
And I
He's
think what was
yeah, go ahead.
and I think what was so interesting about the conversation. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think Tanahashi in like the first 3 minutes was just like point blank period. He was like, was silence not an option? And I was like, oh shit. Like that's kind of where we're all at of like, could you have just said nothing and like just not let whatever you said be public? Like you could have just been quiet. And I think like even that, and I do think, I mean, I want to get your thought on this. I think like to Mackenzie's point, I think it brings up like an interesting point about just like where progressivism and liberalism is within white spaces. Like I think our very much so progressive views are very much so different in what white people would think of our progressive views. And I think the conversation with Ezra Klein kind of brought up the thing to me of I think a lot of liberals and progressives who are white, I think they identify with I think issues that we identify with, but only in the sense of when it wins. And I think they're willing the minute, and I think Trump's election has proved this, like the minute something is like, oh wait, this might not be a winning strategy. Let's stop doing it. And it's like, no, no, no. In freedom movements throughout that have to do with us, you have your moral until it wins, not like, oh, the minute it doesn't win, you get off of it. And I think if anything, the conversation exposed, I think how a lot of liberals clearly think there are issues of freedom, DEI, equity. They're cool when they're up. And as long as they provide us a winning solution to win elections and this, that, and the third, this is great. But the minute it might be a struggle, actually, we don't really care about that that much. Right? And it's like we pivot. And I think it's frustrating because I think for us, it's like, no, 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 we're going to fight this fight until we win, not like while it's up. And I think there's a really big difference. And I think that conversation exposed a lot of differences between, I think, how a black liberal would think or a black progressive person and a white person. But curious your thoughts.
I think I spoke to this earlier to some degree, like when we talked about Trump's base. I feel like every race at large is mostly concerned about their race. Like, call a spade what it is, right? So when we talk about attempting to exist in this cohesive party where all of everybody is just, I have a dream speech, Martin Luther King, right? It's not realistic because, especially in America where capitalism rules everything and individuality is tied to capitalism because I'm making this money for my personal goals, my interests, my me. And if I choose to give it back to the community or share my knowledge or give more access, then so be it. But 9 times out of 10, I'm only going to do that if it benefits me. That's the American way. So when you act like just think about that and then apply it across just people, ideologies, pride, ego, all of these things that just make up a human being, you can only step back and say, well, duh, white liberals, Latino liberals, every other race of liberals, and
I
then black
mean,
liberals all have different interests. Now, are there underlying things that, okay, everybody wants access to healthcare and access to jobs? Sure. The however is to Noah's point. When it doesn't benefit me or if it's not cool, then F that. I want make sure my people and me are protected. And the unfortunate truth is black people don't have the equity to do that in this country.
I
What we
mean,
do
I
is just
feel
not
like,
organized equity. Other races have beat us to that, I feel like, and that's where we always lose the charge.
well, you know what? I feel like one time, sometimes I don't even like saying that we don't have as much equity because even when we've had an investment in this country, they take it away from us every single time. So it's probably undocumented things, but I think that's still like, yes, you're right. But this conversation specifically, it just was more about like what irritated me was just about what I was saying before, like why are we like in these situations? It's also like identity thing because all of us have one identity. We are Black people. The separate identities would be Black woman, Black man, but there is something there. It is what, to me, in my opinion, when I meet liberals like that, and I say it in that way, in a very condescending way, it's like, what do y'all really stand for real? Because these will be the same people that are in a Black Lives Matter march, but will still cross the street if a Black man is walking. So I'm just like, I don't get that. And I feel like the conversation was just that. Like, what do you mean you don't know your place? And when he asked the question, I don't really know what my place is in the movement. It's like, and you have a microphone to you and a podcast, and the platform is the New York Times, and
Democratic
you're asking
podcast.
that? What? And then because it's the New York Times and because you have this platform, and this is another thing, and I guess I could say this as I work there, the opinion to me sometimes is another way for y'all to push y'all little conservative or like other devil's advocate content other because I'm like, you have a podcast, you have a platform. And so it's on the New York Times. It's elevated. This is supposed to be elite journalism. This is supposed to be the best of the best. And you got up there and asked, you don't know what your point is or your place is in the movement.
I'm gonna just be petty and I'm gonna shut up. Not even petty, but like
What?
we see what mass media companies are doing. We might get to this
That's
somewhere in
true.
the later conversation, and we've hinted around this in topic, but we see that the institution, i.e., mass media, politicians, blah, 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 they're protecting their same interests, which goes in my head to this same point of why do liberals play this like obtuse role of so
So
yeah.
then it's not a real thing then. That's the thing. Like then that
No,
to me isn't a real thing. That's just
and
a shifty thing.
and I think that's I think the point that I took away from the conversation is that like for people who look like us, people who are less, economically fortunate, for people in kind of Ezra Klein space, politics is just like a fun exercise. It's a game. But at the end of the day, none of this is really impacting me. I'm good without realizing that like for some people, no, like this is actually like life and death. And I actually feel the impacts of what Charlie Kirk was talking about because people look at me like that. Or even if they don't say it, it's the conversations that oh yeah, all these people are kind of just buying into this. Um, like even I'm not gonna say where I work, but our CEO sent out a message about political unity the week out, and it's like you're sending that over this, like understand how even like, and I think Ezra Klein does not understand that how even the process of doing that for some people is real. For him, it's just like, oh well, I think this is right in the grand scheme of things, but this is more just like it's play for a lot of people at the top. Where like for us, no, this is like we can actually feel the impact because we know at the end of the day we're actually the ones that they want. But that's enough a snitching of where we work and where we used to work for the time being. Henry, close it out, and then I'm gonna go to the next one.
I was just gonna say, Mackenzie, we shared a firsthand example as to this, like people not willing to sacrifice their own self for the greater good. And I think that's how translucent our conversation has been tonight because we started talking about the government shutdown, asking why does it matter, and like we've kind of unraveled all of that. So it's just very informative content, and I really hope that like the viewers are able to just grasp that. I'm sorry.
Sales pitch. Love that. Now, moving on to, I think, a very interesting thing that we've been discussing. It has to do with our former vice president. So, Kamala Harris, last month, she published her memoir, 107 Days, which served as a detailed account beginning with her becoming the 2024 Democratic nominee throughout the general election in November. The memoir runs through the key days of the campaign, beginning, as Henry comes up with the book, There We Go. It begins with the response from other Democratic politicians moments after Biden dropped out, including Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, Biden himself, and the Obama family. One thing that she shares throughout the book that I found was interesting was her relationship with former President Biden, including that she felt taken for granted through both the campaign and her team not necessarily defending her, especially when working on difficult issues like immigration. One thing that she did say, she feels protective and frustrated with Biden. One quote that stood out from an article that I read: "I've never believed you need to elevate yourself by pushing someone else down." I have a lot of interesting thoughts just on like her interviews. She's been a lot like very much in the front facing, obviously to sell the book. Um, what do you think her book tour, some of the stuff that has come out from the book, her interviews, what do you think it says about both not only the 2024 election, but I think increasingly I'm more fascinated about like where does she go from here? And I don't
Where does she go from here? She has a groundbreaking book tour. She makes millions and she retires and calls it a day and walks off with the middle finger. Because did y'all hear her curse in that clip? She
yeah.
said,
She was like, these motherfuckers. But yeah,
but you know what? What it just tells me is what I already knew, and which is why I've been so passionate about not allowing any critique of her run because it was 107 days. She was set up. Then it just goes into a spiral, and it's just like, I mean, I'm excited to read the book. I do not have a copy, but I'm excited to read the book. But yeah, where she goes from here, I mean, I'm not, I wouldn't be interested in continuing politics at this point because then it's like, I don't know what I would do. I'm not going to run for president again, or I just wouldn't be interested because I would be so disappointed in my party. And I feel like after the book, I don't know if they would let that even,
To me, it's still an open question.
yeah.
or whether she runs
Um,
again. I don't know.
I don't think she's gonna run.
I
I,
don't think
I don't,
she should
I don't
either.
think
We
I
don't
don't
get
think she
another.
should. That's a different question. I don't think she should. She might,
I mean,
but
she might, but I don't think she's that what's the word? Egotistical. Like at that point it would be, and that's just my opinion. We know that at this point the only person that can be president is a thoroughbred man, not even person, because Hillary didn't win. So Newsom, I really do hope
Let's
he
stay in
is.
2025 right now, honestly,
Yeah,
because
exactly. We
it's
need
so
to be
much in
focused
front of
on
us
getting
right now.
Keisha to that state house. That's what I'm focused on.
We
I
so
That's my big focus, to be honest. If I'm like, Georgia has to be blue. Georgia has to turn back blue. We got our two senators. We need to keep them. We need the governor, and then we gonna be pushing the southern like rise. I feel like.
what that got to do with Kamala?
I mean, it's all intertwined. Women in politics, girl. Duh.
Oh, I
I'll
mean,
tighten up
back
a
to
few.
Kamala though.
No,
Yeah.
facts. I feel like Kamala's book tour is doing just that, though, to the point of you said it's 2025, midterms are next year, right? And I think what we've all said on this podcast is Democrats have a very big problem being honest and with messaging. I personally think, I'm not saying this was like in the strategy meeting, maybe it was. However, I think this kind of keeps that momentum up. It allows her to one voice her opinion, but also voice a lot of frustrations from Democrats or people who like wanted to see a change or shift and wanted to protect the democracy or whatever. I think she keeps that conversation going in real time, and it invigorates people to go out, vote, be empowered, and stay involved because that's the real like truth of it. A lot of people are going to become so disengaged because of what Trump is doing. And if we don't double down on messaging, double down on like hyping up these people that are in the midterms and telling people what's actually going on, then we're gonna be really faced like it's gonna get worse, worse. It's gonna get
To
worse.
to your point, I kind of wish she was angrier and more visibly pissed.
I mean,
Uh,
she can't come out like the
or
black cat woman, diary of
no,
a
no,
black woman.
rather, I think within our own community, because I think at this point she needs to speak to us, and I think she needs to know that like, hey, we are going to take
You
a
know
different
what? I ain't
message
even
from
trying to cut your point off,
you.
but
Please.
that again would make your last, like how we was in that last conversation,
Mhm.
saying we don't understand how liberals play this obtuse thing where they're only concerned about their issues. We can't expect a popular Democratic leader that's faced for you know what I'm saying to only speak to one community. That's the
Yes
problem with
and
those.
no. Yes and no. And but I would say this. I think that if anything, if she is actually concerned about the strength and health of the Democratic Party as a whole, as of now, the black people that I know, they're not going. And I think they need, no one is, and this will kind of actually pivot to like the bad money conversation. No one is focusing us on just how crazy this is. And I think Kamala has the space and the attention and the appetite to, I think, get everyone to say, like, hey, actually, y'all, I know y'all are pissed. I know y'all are frustrated. Girl, I am too. We as a people right now need to hunker
I
down,
would
protect our
disagree
own, and
because
make
the
sure we circle
interviews
back.
that I've watched, like I haven't read the book in detail, I've skimmed through, but I've watched at least 5 interviews where she's on this press tour and she's talking to she did she's do I feel like she's doing
Or
what she
rather,
did very well on her campaign. She messaged to us through a larger channel. Like so
I'm not reflecting back to 2024. What I'm saying is that I think, and this is I think my frustration, even like a little bit with Kamala, if I'm being honest, is that I think everyone has kind of talked about how crazy this moment is without actually showing it. And I think we can talk about how crazy what Trump is doing here, what Trump is doing here, how crazy this time is. I think it requires everyone to make a little bit more noise, not in like the traditional, like, hey, I'm going to sit down here and calmly talk about what Trump is doing and how crazy it is. I think at a certain point, because I know I feel this, I know a lot of other people feel this. I think anger is a thing that I think politicians actually need to tap into, and visible frustration, urgency. And even I think this is something that I think Kamala Harris, if I'm being like dead ass honest, I think even she has struggled with in terms of like urgency now. Like we don't have time to wait. And I think if I'm being even critical of her in the back end, I think that's something that I think she, well, of course, she did this in 2024, but I think right now the Obamas are not doing it. No other black, Jasmine Crockett's doing it a little bit.
This is where I'm like, I don't know what you see on your algorithm and vice versa. So maybe we need to start sharing more in the group chat because do see Obama speaking up more. This book tour, I said it when we was meeting. I feel like this, and I just said it at the top. That was my preface. I feel like this book tour is doing that. Like it's not in this outright rage that you want to see, but we do have to acknowledge the fact that she's still talking about issues. She's still holding her foot on the neck. To Mackenzie's point, she just called them some motherfuckers because they not doing their job. Excuse my language, audience. So, like, with all of those things, like taking to account, you're not finna keep just bashing them, bro, because you're not doing nothing. Why aren't you in Maryland? I'm being for real. We're at that point. We always want to call out the big figures. We always want to say they need to do this and they need to do that. Yeah, we got a podcast. That's cool. We get 100,000 streams. That's cool as heck. However, we should be doing more. We talk about this time and time again, and it really does get to the point that we got to stop counting on them, bro. Like that's why
Not to interject, but see, honestly, but to your point, this is, I mean, to my point, Ezra Klein got up there and said he still don't know what his point is in the movement. And it's like you're sitting here saying that we could be doing more. But if you think about both, like this fool don't even know what he doing. And we're over here advocating, we actually have people coming on the podcast doing things.
okay. So that then goes.
That does count more so than other people. You can't diminish that.
I'm not saying, oh, just whoop de doo. We got a podcast. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I am saying that we have this established platform where we talk about real issues and it does bring trains of thought to certain persons' minds. That's great. However, and more, if we want Kamala to go out there and be angry and rile up the people and keep foot on necks and blah blah, we know that any real change at this time is going to come locally. It's going to come locally.
And the funny thing is, I actually agree with you. Yeah, like the power is within us. However, I do think like it needs a jolt. It's not just going to like we always talk about like how hey like we do underestimate like how hey sometimes somebody can actually like get it going in terms of get the conversation
So
going
this
to
is
focus
why I
on that.
think because you stay in Maryland and you good, your senator, you know what I'm saying, y'all are structurally have that infrastructure to push for, black
Yes
rights.
and no, yes and no.
But then I stay
But
in
I think
Georgia, so it's a little
everybody needs
different.
to, but everybody needs to do that though. I think like 10 years from now, I think we're going to look back on all of this and be like, y'all MFers were way too calm. All this crazy stuff happened, and y'all were just like business as usual.
I don't think they're like business as usual, Noah. I genuinely do not think that,
I
and I
kind of
don't
do.
see that from people that I'm personally like Stacey Abrams. She has been on CNN way more since Trump been in office from what I've seen than she was when she lost that election and like went quiet.
I'll let
We
Mackenzie jump in, but I think Stacey Abrams
I
is
was
get
gonna bring
she
up
she's an
Medami, and
outlier.
I was gonna bring up the person that's running for mayor in New York and Kamala endorsing him. That within itself says I am willing and ready to push for
What I will say
the
is that
far left liberal. You know what I'm
what
saying? So she's using her voice the appropriate way she can. But
I
we
will
can't
say
expect her to go up there jumping down, throwing tantrums now.
I will say this. Now let Mackenzie jump in. She also did not necessarily endorse Madonna. She said she supports the Democratic candidate in New York without naming them. There's a big difference to me, but I'll digress. Mackenzie, please jump in before we get to our
I
last part
mean,
of the conversation.
I would just say, like, I feel like at this point, it's just like black women are like, ask somebody else to do it. Like, I just really would be so checked out from doing anything. Like, I feel like she is just carrying herself in a way where it's not even about rage because it's like, I feel like with the Democratic Party, like I would just be moving in a way because I feel like it's something behind the scenes, which is why I want to read the book. Like, was it funding? Was it reason? Why did y'all not let me know way before when there was already whispers? Like all of these things that I feel like are just so behind the scenes that I feel like would make me genuinely feel like I feel like y'all knew and y'all kind of set me up to fail, and then now you're kind of wanting me
That's
to
what she's saying. That's
do
if you any
good. So
if you
I
pay
don't really
attention, if
care.
you look at them interviews, that's where
Like,
she's saying her loyalty is to Biden, and she even says it
I
wasn't.
thought she said something about him.
No, she even again, I haven't read the
she
book in
straddles
detail, but
he
in the
straddles the
interviews,
fence. He does both.
she's on the fence about it, and she mostly speaks about his team in the operation, and then she does trash leadership in the Democratic Party because they were PFing, PFing.
She kind of goes to Biden without like really going there, which I think is like it's a hard thorough line for her. I think from the pieces that I've read, it's kind of very difficult for her to like land that plane. But like I digress. Um,
I mean, that's
last,
like me talking crap about you. If somebody was to come poach you off the podcast.
I mean, how would that ever happen?
Oh, I know it ain't gonna happen because yeah, but I was giving a literal example of you can't if you're in good standing with someone and yeah, maybe they slighted you. However, you want to maintain a relationship and the resources that come with this maintaining this relationship, especially on a major stage. I got to speak about it in a certain way. We know how to do the code switching. Why y'all acting stupid, man?
Oh, it's
Damn!
not about acting stupid. I mean, I genuinely feel like there's respect there. Like I would hope that it wasn't like a nasty relationship. Just out of respect, I'm not gonna disrespect you. Y'all both got into this situation, like I wouldn't think it's any ill will
No,
other
it
than,
doesn't seem like it.
yeah,
There is. It doesn't
yeah.
seem like there is. Um, Lastly, we'll get to some entertainment. So, last week, the NFL announced that Bad Bunny will headline the 2026 Super Bowl halftime show. The three-time Grammy Award-winning Puerto Rican-born artist initially shared that he did not include the U.S. in his concert tour, fearing that Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) would raid concert venues. His tour has included a 2-month residency in Puerto Rico, followed by a world tour beginning in the Dominican Republic in November and includes Latin America, Europe, and Asia. Christy Nome, the Secretary of Homeland Security, indicated that ICE would attend and have a presence at the Super Bowl in February, which will be in Santa Clara, California. Conservative podcasters have already expressed their displeasure that Bad Bunny will be doing the Super Bowl. During his opening on Saturday Night Live, the last episode, Bad Bunny spoke in Spanish, saying that his performance would be an important milestone and not easily erased, adding, and if you didn't understand what I just said, you have 4 months to learn. Um, I have a lot of thoughts. I think just about like music and what advocacy is, also like the Super Bowl and like the space that that presents him or doesn't present him. I don't really know how to feel
Go
about it. Like I
ahead so
don't.
I can go ahead and just not cut you off, but cut you off. Go ahead.
What do you want me to say?
No, what you just said, how the Super Bowl and advocacy and all of that. Go ahead and share your thoughts.
Um, well, more broadly, um, I think I've been kind of disappointed just in once again, like music, culture, everyone has kind of like not actually brought up the moment. Even the people that I think we associate with being considered in this kind of movement. Kendrick Lamar has said nothing about what is going on. Super Bowl performance or not, like if you're like really in tune to like detailed levels, he's not actually calling out what the hell is happening. He's just not. And I say that as a really big fan. It's, no artist is kind of like talking about what is currently happening today. Whether that has to do with they're reflecting our collective culture, which is kind of pulling out a little bit, maybe so. But no one, I think, historically, if you look at Black music specifically, it has always been associated with representing revolution, politics, freedom. Look at Marvin Gaye, Nina Simone, all throughout history, it has been tied to social situations that are currently happening. You even think of when Obama got elected, granted different context. What was the big song that came out? My President is Black and My Lambo was that was like a national song for Black people during that time. Even there's not even something to just be like, damn, what how did we get here? So I have my doubts about just how out front Bad Bunny will be, just because this is a moneymaker and this is has have a huge economic boost for him. Um, I don't know. I think I'd like to think that he would take on the Trump administration, given that he just said that he's concerned about ICE. Um, the show will be produced by him, Rock Nation, and the NFL collectively. So I don't know what that looks like. If he flat out wants to, like, it's not. And to me, it's bigger than just him speaking Spanish. Even though I won't negate for someone who is a native Spanish speaker, how powerful that would be to have someone speak Spanish at the Super Bowl to you. I can see that actually being really important. Um, I don't know what it'll. I don't think it'll mean anything in the grand scheme. He did endorse Kamala Harris. He had been very critical of ICE, but I don't know if that will be reflected. I have my doubts if that will be reflected in the Super Bowl.
I think it'll all be performative. I think it'll be a very performative show. I'm not even kidding because it's just kind of
No,
like
yeah, yeah.
they'll put a American flag or they'll assemble 1,000 people and say no ice here and just like
I don't even think they'll do that.
I mean, yeah, or they'll do something. And it's just
That's a
like,
little
I
strong.
mean, it'll be just as important as I feel. Well, no, it will definitely be important speaking Spanish,
Hmm.
incorporating that. And he'll probably have a monologue saying, you know, all unity and all these things. But like, yeah, like Beyonce coming out with the Black Power when she was the Black Panther
Hmm.
costumes, and it's just like, oh wow, like okay, cool, fight the power. Then it's like, but your husband is
Oh,
doing things. So
ooh,
it's just like, no, but
ooh.
not even that. But I'm just saying, I think it'll be very performative, like, and not in a bad way. I think he will speak Spanish. I think that they'll incorporate it in a nice way. We really are one. We shouldn't even be acting like this. But like, as far as anything happening in real life after that,
And also to your point, that's also on them. Like even in like the one criticism I would give Beyonce, like yes, you did that, but then you didn't like follow it up with anything. You didn't say like, hey, this was that I did this because X, Y, Z, and I want to drive a conversation about this. Kendrick Lamar theoretically having like the American flag separate together. There's no follow up statement about like, here's why I did that. To your point, I think it's like having the art, having the symbolism, but then like actually like talking about why. And I think like just doing it on stage, it's going to leave by the fourth quarter of the game. No one's going to talk about it after. Henry, go ahead.
I'm just soaking in the thoughts. The word of today is translucent. Why? Because the conversation just keeps like it's just yeah toppling. Nonetheless, though, I think well, one y'all strict as heck. Yeah, like y'all strict over here. Y'all don't play. If somebody not coming full force, you not messing with it. And
mean, this isn't to say I'm gonna boycott it or not watch it. Do I think it'll be a great show? Yes. Do I think it's gonna be? But like, it's just very ironic. And like to your point, the conversation is translucent because everything leads back to capitalism. That's all this is. But it's just interesting to what we've also talked about. You know, like like what do people really stand for? Because what's the point of doing the whole US thing? Had he not really did that, I probably wouldn't have much of an opinion on it, honestly. But it's like
Same,
you did
same.
that. You made
Yeah.
a stance, which I respect, I do, but then to
Mhm.
turn around and be on the biggest American. This isn't the World Cup. This isn't the Olympics. This is the biggest American stage. This is super Americana core.
so
And even then I'll say this because then like I would understand him saying like I understand like even like the logistical differences. Yes, people who he is probably concerned about are not attending the Super Bowl. So you can remove that out of it. But to Mackenzie's point, stand on the principle. Like just be like, if this is what you said, you would make more money touring in the United States than you would doing one show at the Super
so
Bowl.
that then lets you know it's not solely about money. I'm glad you said. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad.
Yes and
You know
no.
what it is?
Yes and no. Yes
They
and
probably
no.
use the example of Colin Kaepernick, honestly. Because I feel like he's the one of the few people, if not only people, well, not only people, but like really stood by it, standing on it. And
Okay, so two, y'all are just y'all talk for me, but y'all choose to just not see my points to sound. But point, Noah started with, you know, historically music, politics, so on and so forth have always been intertwined to the point to where in the 60s heavily and then during the civil rights era and all that time period we had artists like Sammy Cooke and Aretha Franklin and all of those persons sacrificing themselves. So we don't know how many concerts they lost, how many people boycotted them, so on and so forth for the greater good. In my personal opinion, this is just based on the history that I know, it affected them in more of real time
Mhm.
then than it does now. And especially if we, come up to the now millennial era, 2020s post, people have the ideal of wealth has done inflated so much. So the comfortability of especially Black people who have gained more access and resources to get some type of wealth or the ideal of wealth, we've become comfortable. In which I challenged Noah earlier. We should be doing more and blah blah blah. Like there was no baton pass that kept going. It dropped, and when it dropped, that's when all of this stuff came and embedded itself in real time because there was no active effort to continue to fight for our rights. So taking that ideology and applying it to Bad Bunny, or just music artists in this day and age, they are not willing to sacrifice their own individual livelihood for the greater good of the people. Now, what I have noticed, especially if we bring up a Beyonce or a Kendrick Lamar, they do a lot of symbolism and lyricism to where it messages toward, a certain energy, a certain audience, a certain stance, whatever. The if and but is kind of to where y'all was charging Kamala or Noah was charging Kamala. We want you full force. And I'm passionate. I'm passionate. I get loud. I get crunk. I get crazy. But it does become a point of just, I mean, calling a spade, and then like acknowledging what it is. And the what it is these people are not willing to risk their own individual livelihood for the greater good. Now, specifically talking about Bad Bunny, and why I'm glad Noah mentioned the money thing, he clearly is doing this for some greater message. And I'm using air quotes because I'm only speaking from my perspective. And with speaking from my perspective, I can only presume if he said, I'm not touring in the United States because that puts my target audience at risk for just being in a just terrible situation, I'm gonna avoid that. And to your other point, I don't know. I'm just speaking on what I might know about ticket sales and American football. His target audience may not be the same target
It won't.
demographic
It
of
won't be.
the Super Bowl, which gives him the benefit of doubt to say, hey, I'm messaging to these direct people that probably likely put this man in place. So maybe to y'all point earlier of they never hear anything outside of their stratosphere. Nobody's ever messaging toward them, hey, think about this, or hey, consider this. This is ideal time to do that. This gives
And I
that
and,
him
That's
and maybe
fair.
and maybe that's
opportunity
also
to
where,
do
and
that.
I think maybe
I'll
that's
let
where
you
the
have
difference
that
is.
point.
Yeah, that was a great point. The thing is, I don't even think that Bunny will do that. I think maybe that's like my disconnect is that I just don't think he's gonna do that.
Okay, what do you
And
mean
then,
you don't think he gonna do it when you just said on his Saturday Night Live skit he literally mocked it, like not mocked, but he
yeah, and I'm not gonna like
taunted it,
to
like
to
he
what we were talking about, and I think this has got to like what Mackenzie's saying. It'll be symbolic, but then it won't be like, is he willing to go in front of cameras and be like, the reason why I did this or said this is because of this.
So you remember that rant I just went on? It was the
No,
middle.
right. No, no,
It
no,
was the
right.
middle part.
No, and I'm agreeing with you. And I think like for context, Henry and I talked about this earlier this week, and I think the difference that I had was that I also think it's like I think these artists are actually not understanding that actually like they have power, like a lot more economic driving power than they actually do. Beyonce has more power than any of her labels, any of like any corporate entity. Beyonce just has more power than them. Like she just does.
Okay,
If you're an
question.
artist at the
On
top, you
the Beyonce thing, she literally went on stage with Kamala, so like she definitely lets
no,
you
I'm no,
know.
I'm not, I'm once again, I think it's also about like if we say like they're all about the dollar, it's like yes, but also like you are actually the driver of your dollar, not these like corporate entities. Like you actually have, if you're at the top, if you're a Kendrick Lamar or that money, it's going to come. The culture is bought into to a way that that is your economic driving power, not some endorsement from Verizon or Pepsi. That's not actually
That's
the
like
thing.
a
That's
yes
like
and no question, Noah, because let's as an artist, these vendors, sponsors, tourment, these people that give funding to allow me to put on these beautiful sets and stages and all of that. That's how the money gets involved. So yes, we're funding it to some degree because we're paying for the tickets and blah blah blah. But that upfront capital has to be fronted, and that's where
I'm not debating you on that. I'm just not. I'm
Beyonce
not.
definitely has the power to sit and argue for what she wants, right?
Mhm.
I do think like that's never been her. So
No, I'm not debating that.
can't
I'm not debating that.
hold right. But then when we see somebody like a Colin Kaepernick who, does he have that same level of celebrity and status? No. The however is when you're intentional, really intentional, and like where your boundaries are, what line, when you go into negotiate a contract, you know what you're not voting on. And with that being said, some people are okay with I should be able to include this in my language, free speech. And other people are, well, if you're not willing to get more black people on the team, get more black staff, increase the pay difference, so on and so forth, then I'm out of here and then y'all can figure that out.
Well, Beyonce, since I did critique her, I will critique her in the best way. Well, this isn't a critique, this is a love moment. She did that for the cover of Vogue when she hired the black photographer. That was like the first time I think a black photographer got to cover.
So in their own way and rights, they are making slight changes, but just not to the ample degree of what we would want, or we would want to see.
Yeah, and maybe what I'm asking for is unreasonable. Maybe what I actually want is for Bad Bunny to be like, no, fuck you, America.
And he can't do that. This man got a life to live.
He just did. He just said he ain't
That's
touring
it.
here. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm the drama. But you know who's not the drama? This
To
podcast.
your point of never mind. That's gonna get we can talk about that off camera.
There we go. We
Just
we
some
will.
fun media stuff that's happening. Reasonable doubt. Are we still protesting Disney? But Reasonable Doubt season 3 is out and on. And Tyler Perry, I am not a Tyler Perry fan. Y'all know this. They
You
know
know,
this.
I watched it. Ruth and Boaz.
Bro, that movie's
Will.
so good. But it was
It
still some
wasn't bad. Yeah,
moments.
it wasn't bad.
Like the ending was rushed. It was rushed because they just
All
started.
the endings be rushed.
Right. That's why Tyler Perry. But that was a good movie. Y'all should go watch that. Those are the only two black media things I know off the top of my head at this moment.
I'm currently watching Beauty and Black for what it's worth. It's
Oh Lord. Please, if you haven't watched Insecure, Seen and Her on HBO, check
Mhm.
it out. Denzel and Spike Lee new movie on Apple TV. Check that out. Um
Him is out, but
him. Him is out. I've heard mixed reviews.
one battle after another with Tiana Taylor. I saw that. That was actually good. It
I
was
heard that was supposed to be a good movie
but yeah, so lots of things to go watch.
in black media. Support us how we can support us, how no one wants you jumping off the fence.
well, that's a perfect quote. So be sure to do that with us. And be sure to like, listen, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and where you can watch our full episodes on YouTube and shorts and short little videos that we are cranking out here. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media at WRGO Pod. And like I said, we have a very, very, very special guest coming up. So tune in. Until next time.